Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus, here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is the 21st of November 2018, Wednesday, the middle of the week. Let's have a look at what's making the political headlines today. And to start off with, Theresa May is heading back to the European Commission in Brussels. Why? Well, today is reportedly widely, but in a lot of the newspapers, the day that Brexit is properly agreed in terms of the withdrawal agreement and all the counterparts to that with the European Union and the UK government. There's going to be obviously that big European Council event on Sunday, which is the formal event where all the leaders sign, all the 27 leaders of the European Union institutions sign up, and the UK sign off the agreement. But today is when Theresa May meets with European Commission President Jean Claude Juncker to both give their final decision, final verdict on the agreement and whether it's going to be going forwards or not, and crucially, what this final agreement is going to look like. Now, why is this important? Because the reports today are that the Prime Minister is going to be heading to Brussels, she's heading there later this afternoon, with a number of concessions in mind that the European Union have to give. Or more favourable language in particular to do with the future relationship. Now, remember that the Brexit agreement is in several different parts. There's the first, which is the withdrawal agreement itself, which is the legal document, which outlines the context and outlines the various component parts of the divorce itself, stuff like the withdrawal bill, the divorce bill as it's called, the rights of citizens, the nature of the withdrawal from the European Union, stuff like that. That's the legal text. Then there's obviously the transition period, which is the transition period, as you've heard, over the many months. And then the final part is the future relationship. Now, that is a non-legally binding document, which is basically outlining the ambition between the UK and the EU for what the future relationship will look like. It's a rough kind of idea and guidelines for the actual trade negotiations that will take place after March 2019, during that transition period when the UK and EU are trying to forge that special close relationship going forwards formally in an actual trade agreement between the UK and the EU. Now, why does Theresa May need concessions so much? Well, obviously, as you've seen in recent days, she has not got a huge amount of popularity for this Brexit deal. A lot of Conservative MPs and a lot of influencers and Conservative members of the Conservative Party are not happy with the terms of this withdrawal agreement, and also, in particular, the lack of clarity over what the commitments are in terms of the future relationship, what the EU is going to offer the UK in terms of access to the European Union market and access to the European Union as an institution as well. Obviously, that is a key part of any successful Brexit, which is a good, sound trade agreement to come afterwards with the European Union. And she needs to convince many people within her party to come along with her on this withdrawal agreement and this future relationship, and she needs to get more concessions, or she's been told, according to the reports, that she needs to get further concessions to ensure that. Now, the Daily Mail is reporting a source that is quoting the Conservative Party Chief Whip, Julian Smith, and he's given a warning saying, according to this source, the Chief Whip's view is that fear of no deal will not be enough to win this. The numbers are terrible, and by numbers it means the parliamentary arithmetic, so the numbers of Conservative MPs who've said they're going to support or not going to support, and so whether the likelihood of the government going to get the withdrawal agreement through Parliament itself, the numbers are terrible, and he needs something sufficiently different from what people currently think they are voting for in order to get this through. AKA needs something else, or at least needs further concessions or further things from the EU in order to get this through Parliament. Now, there are a number of different issues to do with the future relationship in particular, which are proving, according to the reports, particularly sticky. This is predominantly now to do with a number of EU 27 countries are piping up and getting concerned about in terms of the future relationship. And there is three main points highlighted today. One of them is the Chequers Plan. Now, if you remember the Theresa May's Chequers Plan, not itself very popular with a number of Conservative backbenchers, but this is the whole idea of the UK staying in some kind of single market for goods and not services, that differentiation which was the key part of the Chequers Plan. That's very disliked, according to reports in Brussels, because they see it as some kind of cherry picking, because you're taking some benefits of the European Union membership and access to the European Union economy without taking other bits of it, cherry picking what you want. Gibraltar is the next big one. Spain is reportedly digging its heels in hard over Gibraltar's inclusion in any future trade deal. So it wouldn't necessarily be the case, according to Spain, or at least their position, that Gibraltar will automatically be included in any UK-EU trade deal. It needs to be a separate component negotiated part. Obviously, that's something which is difficult because the Spanish, alongside any EU 27 state, can vote down the future relationship, the future trade deal, and that will have the effect of completely nullifying the trade deal until there's an agreement made. And the third one is fishing rights. Reports are that France is leading a pack of nations demanding similar access to UK waters as a price for a future trade deal. That, don't need to say to you, you probably already know this will be incredibly unpopular with many Conservative MPs, particularly those up in Scotland, particularly those such as Cabinet Minister Michael Gove, who's made fishing a key component of why Brexit is going to be successful. This future relationship document is reported now to be about 22, 23 pages long. We'll see it at some point when it's agreed by Theresa May and Jean Claude Juncker, apparently later on today. So keep an eye on that, but there's still a lot of controversy and a lot of very difficult political tangles to unwind for Theresa May in the next few hours. Let's look at Theresa May, though, what's going on in Westminster. We've spoken all about just then the withdrawal agreement and getting through Westminster, but what actually is the problem now? Well, the main issue is that it seems to be, and the reports are indicating this, that Theresa May is now in effect running a minority government. Now, what does that mean? She doesn't actually have the parliamentary arithmetic. She doesn't have the support, the numbers now, to actually be able to convincingly pass any legislation, because the confidence and supply deal that the DUP had with the Conservative Party, which gave them the majority overall in the House of Commons, is no longer seemingly active. According to reports, the DUP abstained on the finance bill votes last night. Significant. They did not vote with the government on the government's finance bill, and that forced the government to make a number of opposition amendments, or concessions for a number of opposition amendments, particularly Labour and the SNP. The Sun's reporting that the DUP will continue to withhold support until the Prime Minister drops the backstop plan for the withdrawal agreement. So the DUP basically saying, you're not getting our support, you're not getting your majority in government unless you sort out this backstop issue and the issues we've raised regarding the backstop issue to do with Ireland and Northern Ireland. How will this issue be resolved, though? Very difficult, considering the EU have said they don't want to revisit any of the withdrawal agreement. The UK, Theresa May has said, really, we can't revisit any of this agreement. It's been made. The agreement has been agreed by both parties. To go back on it now will cause a significant amount of problems. But the DUP, unlikely going to back down. The DUP, if you think about this leverage, they have the ability to give the government a majority. And without a majority in a minority government, Theresa May is not going to be able to push forward any controversial legislation. Is going to have to rely a lot on opposition members of parliament to try and get anything through in order for the government to be effective in any way. But in particular, when you're about to push through a very controversial Brexit legislation, which is very mixed in the House of Commons itself, this makes it all the more difficult and all the more important to get the DUP support. So reports are that Philip Hammond is attending the DUP party conference in Belfast this weekend, along with a former cabinet member on the other opinion of the Brexit deal, which is, of course, Boris Johnson. So watch that space. That is going to cause, no doubt, significant problems unless resolved for the Prime Minister and indeed for the government going forwards. Finally, then, one more story. Of course, we're keeping it Brexit-based, and that is the Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, has indicated his support for Theresa May's Brexit deal, particularly the withdrawal agreement. He was speaking at the Treasury Select Committee and told MPs that the deal would support investment and would increase certainty for business. Now, that goes without saying. If there's a deal in place and it's been agreed on, it's been formalised, then businesses know what's coming ahead and they know the terms of what's coming ahead, as opposed to hypotheticals, which businesses, of course, can't plan on, or very easily plan on, I should say. The key emphasis that he made, though, was the importance of the transition period. In the quotes which have come through in the newswires today, we welcome the transition arrangements in the withdrawal agreement and the possibility to extend the transition. Remember the reports coming through that the transition period could be extended to 2022. The guaranteed transition period could last. It could at least, up until the end of 2020, give greater clarity for companies to invest and spend. The idea of extending past 2020 was very valuable because, as Mark Carney pointed out, trade deals often take an average of 4 years to complete, and it also can require an implementation period afterward. As you can see, though, in some of the news lines as well, he did emphasise that no deal was very much the really, really bad option, or very much the unpreferred option, and the possibility of a no deal still remains uncomfortably high. When the Bank of England carries out a full economic assessment of the deal next week, it will show a no deal, no transition outcome will be the worst for the economy, and the risks were still uncomfortably high, as he said in the Treasury Select Committee yesterday. So again, very significant stuff. Will be good news for Theresa May, though, to get the Governor of the Bank of England, such a big, important component part of the UK economy, and the City of London, those financial services, to some extent giving warm indications to the withdrawal agreement, bolstering that business case for giving Theresa May the Brexit support. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. If you want to chat about something in this we've covered in the headline focus, or we missed something out of a story that should have been covered, the comment box is below. And of course, I'm on Twitter at RJHDouble. We'll see you again at the end of the week, Friday, between 9 and 10 o'clock. See you then.